And good evening. Welcome once again to Branco Broadcast. I am Bob Branco. Nice to have you with us this evening. Our featured guest tonight is Matt Chao of Newton, Massachusetts, graduate of the Perkins School for the Blind. And welcome, Matt. You can give us your brief background, your history, and then we'll ask you questions later on.
Okay, well, my name is Matt Chao. I'm graduating class of 72, and I was there at Perkins from actually 1968 to 73. Graduating in 72, I took a postgraduate year in order to better prepare myself for college and to learn some other skills that I needed for basically being more independent. They had home and personal management, which was not offered very as frequently to guys as it was to the girls, and I took the opportunity to take the program. And by the time I was ready to go to school, to college, I'd learned most of the skills that I needed to live independently upon graduation into my work career. After that, I went to Brandeis from 1972 to 77. I graduated in 77, and then I went for my graduate degree in rehabilitation counseling education. I got my Master of Ed Plus Certificate of Advanced Graduate Studies and received that in 1979. And after that, I worked for 7 years at Mass Rehabilitation Commission as a voc rehab counselor. And following that, I put in a year of law school, decided that the law wasn't for me, and worked for a small computer company selling adaptive computer equipment for about 20 months. And then I got laid off. The economy was bad, and was out of work for 15 months, and eventually became employed as a Braille shop instructor for the Braille production program at Basic Correctional Center, which is now closed. And I worked from there from 1992 until 2014, retiring in June of 2014, and I have been happily retired ever since. So in a nutshell, that is my my brief history. In addition to that, on the more personal side, I've been a competitive sailor since 1999, sailing for this. I'm going into my 37th season of sailing, and I basically like to say that I've been racing for 23 out of those 36, now 37 years. The first 13 or so I was learning. So even though I thought I was a racer, you find out how much you don't know when you start out in this sport, and then as you go along, you realize how much you didn't know and how much you need to learn. So in a nutshell, that's what I've been doing. That's the kind of mischief that I've been causing since 1972. So that's pretty much it in pretty compact synopsis.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions from the folks out there?
Yeah, do you still tune pianos yourself? You remember you were asking me. I heard you were tuning for Harvard back in the 80s.
No, back in the 70s. I did. I actually tuned briefly late in 72, 73, and then I've pretty much given it up, partly because my mom's house got broken into and they took all my tools.
I was going to ask you.
No, they were more concerned about the toolbox. They didn't give a damn about the tools. And, I mean, at the time, $300 is a lot of money for tools.
Yeah.
It's more like $900 to $1,000 now for the same set of tools.
I know.
So they took all my stuff. They took my stereo. They took and so ever since then, I have not been tuning. I tried to get some tuning jobs up in New Hampshire over the summer while I between semesters. But the first, I got a call from one person. They asked, "Are you a member?" I said no. Click. the Tuners Guild.
Yeah.
So they're pretty tough about that. And the thing is that after all is said and done, when you look at, and I'm sure you know this, Glenn, when you look at what it costs versus what you get out of it in terms of actual money that you're left with, it's not a heck of a lot.
I know.
So that's why you have to do volume versus quality. You got to do. I mean, obviously you want to do a good quality job, but you got to do a lot of pianos.
Yeah.
But then we knew about that going into the profession because Mr. Reese told us that.
Right. Well, I tuned in piano stores actually right now I'm in one 2 days a week, but 74 to 79 I was at the Steinway store for 5 years. So
8 hours a day, 4 pianos a day, right?
Well, actually, I only did 2 because a lot of them needed double tunings because of pitch raising and stuff.
Oh, A440? Counter pitch?
Well, actually, they like to tune it a little over that.
So they would drop.
Yeah, so they drop, so they'd stretch out because they're new.
So they'd stay.
Right.
Yep, I know.
So they'd fall towards pitch instead of away from it.
Yep, makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It just means more
also,
work.
You have something I'd like to buy off of you. I gave you something in 1970, which it was a stereo mono adapter made by Lafayette. I'd love to give you
don't have it.
$20.
God knows where it went.
It got stolen?
Probably.
Did it get?
Hey,
you mean when they took your stereo? They took all your.
Oh, they took everything. They cleaned us out.
Oh, poo. That sucks.
Matt, I have a question. How far have you sailed?
I haven't really. Well, there are a couple of types of sailors. There's some who do what's called blue water, which means that they'll do transatlantic, trans-Pacific. They'll do round the worlds. They'll do, let's say, Newport to Halifax, or they'll do Boston to Bermuda or Marion to Bermuda. I haven't really done any offshore sailing, offshore racing. So, basically,
Halifax, Mass, or Halifax, Nova Scotia?
That's right.
Halifax, Nova Scotia. Which means you're going up into Canada, you're going up into the Labrador Current, which means it's really, really cold.
Yep.
Which means you also have to worry about fog. But I haven't done the offshore, what's called blue water sailing, because I haven't been able to secure a cruise slot on a boat that does that. That's my next objective as a competitive sailor. But in order to do that, you need contacts to get in there, and it's a tough sell. Doesn't mean it can't be done. It just means that you have to work a lot harder to get there.
Okay.
Matt, it's Marcy Seelman. How are you?
Oh, good, Marcy.
How many are on your crew? I mean, you don't just go out on your own.
No, we have, the way it works is in blind sailing you have two-sided guides, 2 blind sailors. The guides are race capable. They know the rules of racing. They know how to race. Basically, they're sailing by remote control, and that we are the guys literally pulling all the strings.
Right.
The guys who steer, we're the guys who do the trim. They basically will tell us, you have a mark in about 5 seconds. You're going to round that mark, on the port side or left side of the boat. 3, 2, 1, bear off. We go around the mark. We go on the leeward leg. It gets real technical. But basically, it's mutual trust. They have to trust us as much as we have to trust them.
And if so, then it's smooth sailing.
Excuse me?
And if you trust one another, it's smooth sailing.
Well, you don't have a choice. I mean, if you're not comfortable with the crew you're with, then you shouldn't be there in the first place.
Right.
That's not the time, the place to play. This is a contrived, stress, high race environment. You have to know what you're doing. You learn that over time. And the people with whom we compete, what's different for me is that I have raced in both blind sailing venues, and I've raced in what I would call mainstream or inclusive environments where I've raced against sighted skippers, being the only blind skipper. So, I have a number of friends within my sail who have nothing to do with blind sailing, and we're able to be credible in terms of being competitive in the sighted arena. So, it's a lot of fun in both environments, but it's more fun in many respects. It's more exciting in the sighted environment because they're not going to catch any flack.
Right.
But given the training I've had over the past 30 some odd years, I can sail in most fleets, and we're talking about we're talking about clearances between boats of maybe a couple inches, maybe a foot at the most. But if you want to be competitive in that kind of environment, that's what you have to be capable of doing. So my sighted crew trusts me to do what has to be done at the proper time. But it involves a lot of practice. So you don't just pick up and go racing. You train a lot of the time is taken up in terms of being out in the water. Just time on the water, practice. It's like any sport or interest that you want to be good in. You have to devote a lot of time to. You have to commit to it.
I'm hearing some noise. Is everybody muted? I'm hearing some noise. Any other questions?
Yeah, did you meet any famous people in Walpole, like people that we would know, lifers that you hear on?
I wasn't in Walpole. I was at Bay State.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Were there any famous people there?
You remember? Well, there was one guy named what was his name? Brian Dyer. Remember the bowling alley where this guy killed 7 people?
Whoa.
Owned by Sammy White.
Right.
No, I don't remember that.
I vaguely.
Back in 1980.
I remember that.
1980 what, too?
1983 or so.
Excuse me, what?
Anyway, he was actually one of my workers. He's long since passed, but he, of course, he claimed he didn't do it, but they had him dead to rights. But I knew him, but aside from that, I can't tell you any more about others because it's, there is a confidentiality issue here. So there are a lot of people I cannot talk about.
What has been done with the equipment since the program closed?
I have no idea. Once I left, it was out of my hands. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. That's what everybody says now.
Mm-hmm. I do. Speaking of prison programs, I'm proofreading for Oshkosh a good bit.
Okay.
Oshkosh Correctional up in Wisconsin.
Yep. But actually, one good thing came out of my job is that I got myself a braille embosser, so I now am able to braille out stuff at will. So if I want to read something,
that's good.
I want to read in braille, I just bang it out. End of story.
Do you use Duxbury?
Oh yeah.
That's the standard, isn't it? Kind of.
It pretty much is.
Yeah.
Few people use Braille 2000, though it's not as popular as only among transcribers.
Hey, I use what's commercially used, and that's Duxbury. And Duxbury has got to be one of the most comprehensive translator packages that I've seen. They're great with UEB. Joe Sullivan would put that. That's right. So those are the kinds of things I've been doing. The other thing is that I'm also a corporator. I'm one of the members of the Perkins Corporation now, and have been since this past June.
Do you own stock?
No. Stock? What's that? we what we do is we basically we basically try to guide and direct with the future of the school and what's going on.
What do you think of Perkins now as compared to when you went or when we went? It's changed so much. What is your views on that?
Well, they sort of had to change. The reason they had to change was because their clientele were becoming multiple handicapped.
Yeah.
And as a result, they had to change their charter in the mid-'80s, as I understand it.
Okay.
And so now what you have is most of the people have multiple disabilities, with blindness as one of the major components. Probably has to be one of the primary components in terms of multiple disabilities. And it's not the Perkins that we knew as guys growing up from 68 to 73, 74. Okay, that wave had long since passed, and so as a result, you now had people with kids who came in with rubella and which resulted
mental retardation.
So,
what you used to see at Fernald.
Well,
why do you?
I like to think it's a hell of a lot better than Fernald, but I mean it's the same kind of situation where you've got multiple disabilities. So it is not the Perkins that we know, but it is still Perkins, and it is still trying to work towards dealing with improving the lives of those people who are blind or visually impaired.
Yeah.
I mean that's still their primary mission.
Mm-hmm. What is your view? Because you said you did voc rehab. Why do you think the unemployment rate is so high with the blind and visually impaired?
Why?
In your opinion, yeah.
Attitude.
Attitude?
Has nothing to do with technology. The technology is there. The skills are there. The attitude is not. And that's one thing you cannot legislate.
Right. You're talking about attitude of the employers? More than the attitude of.
Well, some blind folks deserve part of the blame because, when you go to Perkins, you have this overinflated idea of what you're able to do because you're in this sheltered, comfortable environment. And I'm going to be, very blunt here because after 30-odd years of work, I think I can, have some justification behind my arguments. I think that there are a lot of people. I've observed a lot of blind people who think, I can do anything, but when it comes down to brass tacks, they have overinflated their abilities, or some of them have had a sense of entitlement. Well, you know what? Nobody's entitled to a job. The jobs are obtained based on merit, on skill, and on how you present the employer. Bottom line. And I've seen this time and time again over my working career where, it's how you present yourself and minimize a disability that is going to maximize your chances of success. There are no shortcuts to this, and there's no easy way around it. I wish there was, and if there were, all of us be happily employed making big bucks. Well, that's not the case. We know that. But the fact is that you got to keep on trucking despite all the rejections you get. It's not easy. It stinks. It's no fun. But that's life in the big city, folks. I mean, it's you just have to keep going after it and just aim high. Don't settle for something that's, it's mediocre. It's okay. No. You gotta aim high to get where you want to be, and I've been saying this for years. And sure, I would have liked to have gotten a better job, but I did the best I could and got the best I could get. That said, it is unfortunate that the state or that government in general hires most folks who have disabilities, not the private sector.
Right.
There's something wrong with that picture. But I mean, let's see, Joe, you were working in vending stand, right?
Oh,
Yes, I was, Matt.
Uh-huh.
That wasn't all I did. I've done besides that. I've done some private sector too.
Yeah,
but that wasn't
I mean,
easy.
Right. So I mean, you know where that's all coming from, right?
Mhm. Oh,
so
geez.
So, and you can, you have enough vision where you can read print. Well,
yes.
If you have trouble, just think about us. The guys who are tolls. Well, had a crap load of trouble. But the fact of the matter is that I'm part of, as one of the corporators, I'm part of this new initiative that Perkins is trying to undertake, which is to basically advocate for employment of folks, of folks who are blind or visually impaired, and to eliminate the stigma of the disability. I mean, it's like sensory impairments are and I learned this in grad school. People with sensory impairments are some of the most difficult people to place in employment. It's always been that way.
Yeah.
No reason for it. No easy way around it. It's just the statistical reality. It's not fun. It sucks, but that's the way it is. Doesn't mean you can't change it. It just means you have to work a lot harder at doing it. So, that's actually, if we can digress a little bit, that's why I sail. It's not, I sail because I love the sport and it's a lot of fun. But that's not the only reason. The other reason I sail is to educate the public as to our abilities in spite of disability, without hitting them over the head and having them sit down in the classroom and say, this is what Johnny Jones can do even though he can't see or he can't hear or he has a physical limitation or whatever the heck it is. Being in a quote normal unquote environment, doing your thing, I think carries a lot more weight than having a static environment where we show videos about what people can do.
I have a question.
Sure.
Because you sail, do you have to be a good swimmer as well when you do sailing? I would think you'd have to be, in case you...
Swimming's a good thing. Swimming is a basic survival skill. Everybody should know how to swim.
Yeah.
Seriously.
One does. I do, but...
I mean, I was taught by a swim coach, but I was lucky. But I love the water. As a matter of fact, I swim roughly during the week, from Monday through Friday. I swim every day. I swim about 500 yards a day.
Wow. You live near the Y?
At the Y, yeah.
I assume? What?
Yeah, I swim at the Y.
Uh-huh.
In Brighton.
Do you ever swim at pools, outdoor pools in the summer or anything like that?
I'm right near a lake called Crystal Lake, which is in Newton.
Oh.
It's right near the Highlands, and I actually, when the lake is open, they have a swim area for city residents, and I swim there almost every day. I prefer the outdoors because the pool is all smelly and chlorinated. It's not much fun. Never mind what it does to your skin; it dries it out. But I swim there at the lake almost every day, weather permitting, and it's good exercise. And as you get older, it's more important to exercise, or else you start developing that little paunch that the spare tire, pretty much I swim every day. Actually, during the summer, it turns out to 7 days a week maybe, because it's so nice to be outdoors.
Yes.
You don't get that opportunity. You only get that opportunity maybe 5 months out of the year, and then it's like the rest of it's too cold. It's winter. It's I'm not into this people
polar
doing
bear.
the polar bear thing. No, no, that doesn't do it for me.
No.
Yeah, my dad did that. Oh,
I did that at Outward Bound in 1987, but no, I wouldn't do it again. I mean,
Crystal Lake's a great place to swim.
It's a very nice place.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've swum in 46-degree water. It was part of Outward Bound.
Ooh.
You had to do it.
God, Outward Bound.
It was called the Dash and Splash. You run a mile, then you jump in this water, and you jump out. And then they say good morning to you. But they won't until you've done that.
Right.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't. I thought I was a daredevil. Oh.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I've done some pretty crazy things. The only thing I haven't done is skydiving. I'm really not into that kind of thing. It's, I mean, there are only so many things that one feels they have to prove, and after a point, it's like,
right.
You know what? You start getting too old for this kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's not.
right.
It's going to be conducive to a longer and happy life. The one thing that I did that was a life-changing event was getting a seeing eye dog, which I got my first one. I got in 85, 86.
Josie.
Yeah, that's right. And what prompted me to do that, interesting story about this one, is that one day I was sailing all day. It was a Saturday or a Sunday. I don't remember what day it was. And I used to live in Norwood at the time, and I had to take the red line to the orange line. I had to take the orange line to Forest Hills and take the bus from Forest Hills back to Norwood. Anyway, one day I'm walking up the stairs to the orange line, and I remember it just like yesterday. I'm tapping along with my cane, and then I'm tap, 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 and all of a sudden the cane goes out into thin air, like, oh. So I stopped on a dime, and I just wasn't quite and I backed up, and I realized that I'd almost gone over the edge. I had maybe about a foot before I would have taken a header into the pit.
Wow.
So
I actually went over the edge. I actually 74.
That's happened to me too.
So I said, you know what? I'm getting a dog. That's it. I've had enough. I'm not gonna put up with this crap anymore. So I did some research. As a matter of fact, my dog is coming up here right now. I did some research. I actually talked to people like some of you guys may know some of the people I knew. Doug Adam, Brenda Whitman. They've long since passed. And put in a letter to Seeing Eye, put in an application, got good recommendations, and the next thing I knew, I was on a plane bound for Morristown. And I haven't regretted it I haven't regretted it since. It's one of the best decisions that I've made. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of responsibility, but once you realize that fact, and you're willing to commit to it, I mean, it pays itself back in dividends, huge dividends. Margin of safety, peace of mind, faster walking pace, because I'm not a slow walker, and I've had some close calls, but I haven't been. Well, I got hit by a car once with a dog. That was because the guy turned, made a left-hand turn into the sun, didn't see me, didn't see me, knocked me down. I bounced for about 20 feet. What saved me was I have a backpack on with some computer equipment in it. Otherwise, I would have banged my head on the pavement. Aside from big bruise on my leg, nothing else happened.
What about your dog?
Hell, but the dog just ducked under the car. She's looking at me like, "What are you doing down there?"
Well, there was a blind woman that fell in the pit with a dog, and that was Margaret Kingman, Peggy.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and she died like 3 days later.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think.
But I mean, people say if you have a dog, you're pit fall proof. That's not necessarily.
Well, it gives you a better margin of safety. There are a lot of circumstances we don't know. She may have had the dog off leash and tried to get up to the edge and fall. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, I'm not blaming anyone. I'm saying I prefer a cane, but that's just me.
Well, to each his own. That's why we have the option.
Yeah.
Matt, the first memory I have of you, believe it or not, I know it's kind of random and trivial, but it's something that I remember. When we were in lower school, we had Miss Thayer for singing. And in 1970, of course, we were rehearsing for the Christmas concert. And we were doing a song called Many Years Ago. And Miss Thayer said that a boy named Matt Chao was going to play the flute.
No, clarinet.
Clarinet. That was you.
That was me.
That was my first time I ever heard your name.
My first time I met Matt was religious retreat in 1968, the Protestant retreat.
Oh, God, those things.
Yeah, remember?
They're trying to save our souls. It didn't work.
Oh, yeah. No.
But they were fun.
Well, yeah, they were fun, but they made sure that the boys were with the boy, that they separated us. I don't know if the girls ever went on a retreat like that.
They had a co-ed retreat the year after.
They had Catholic and Protestant retreats, yep.
Well, the Protestant retreat in 1771 were co-ed. My parents wouldn't let me go because they heard that it was co-ed.
They must have known Dr. Waterhouse. Just kidding.
Let's see.
Yeah, well, yeah, they did actually.
And Jeff
I didn't go to those retreats because I said I opted out, and I could do that. We could do that by then.
Yeah, I know. I remember that. You and I were.
I didn't want to go. I had better things to do with my time.
Yeah.
Well, I wish I had gone just so I could have spent the weekend with Jane Geddes, but at that time I was didn't like me.
It was. I heard the incident with Jeff Holshoe and Don Nutting. Now, Randy Wright mentioned something about that.
Oh, God, Randy Wright.
Oh.
Matt, in your opinion, in the 4 years that you were at Perkins, granted you only got there as a freshman, you weren't there since kindergarten or you weren't there since 5th grade, but do you think Perkins prepared people for the outside world like as much as they should have, or do you think that it was okay that they prepared us properly?
You're never really prepared, no matter how much preparation they try to put into you. But
well, Perkins does have a reputation amongst some of the community that they didn't prepare us enough for the sighted world.
Well, I think there is something to be said for that. But then, who's to know what the sighted world expects? I mean.
Right.
That's a pretty nebulous kind of thing. No, I think they given what they had, I think they did what they could. That's not to say that they were good at it. However, I can say that academically they prepared us to be able to go to some of the top colleges in the country, which I did.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Brandeis is every bit as good as any Ivy League school in my book.
Oh, yeah.
And when I've gone to job interviews and popped out the resume and they start looking at it, oh, Mr. Chao, you went to Brandeis. Oh, it's a very good school. Guess what? That's the foot in the door. It matters. Mm-hmm. You may not get the job, but you're going to be noticed. And that's half the battle already. I could have gone to any state school. I could have gone to Suffolk, or I've got, but Brandeis mattered.
You could have gone to Michigan State and moved back to Michigan.
No, I wouldn't want to do that. I mean, I already had roots out east. There was no reason to do that. But
what was the difference? Yes, what was the difference between Michigan School and Perkins, or from your standpoint?
Well, Perkins had a lot more notoriety to it. Michigan was just one of those state residential schools for the blind, which has since closed, by the way. I think the developers have swooped in. They're going to make a big deal out of that's some pretty valuable real estate. But be that say, they all did their job of teaching us the academics we needed to succeed in higher ed. I can't say that they did a really good job of preparing us for the side world. But then, what really does prepare you for the sighted world? I mean, because after all, think of it this way: you're in a school with a couple hundred other kids for between 4 and 12 years. You have a perception as to what it's like outside, but you haven't really been out there, so you don't really know. And then when you get out there, you go if you don't go to college, you go to the next best thing in terms of education. It's called the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
Then you find out. Then you find out what it's really like out there.
Yeah.
But they can tell you all the things to expect, and as a kid, you're not going to believe it because Perkins is all you know, or where have you been is all you know. So, well, you might have some ideas, but I found that when I graduated from Perkins and did my postgrad year and went to college, things were not what I had expected them to be, even though I had the good fortune of having lived on a college campus for the 5 years I was at Perkins. My mom went to Harvard. She was senior tutor at Currier House. I lived in a dorm, in the tutor's, residence. I had contact with college kids during the weekends, and I learned from them how to grow up. Because if you want to be accepted, you gotta be like them. You gotta grow up. So I was fully prepared. By the time I got to Brandeis, I was more than ready for the task ahead. I was so used to being away from home. One of the biggest things that you hear freshmen bitch about is they're homesick. They're homesick. They're homesick.
Yeah.
Didn't mean anything to me. Hey,
right.
It's another semester away at school. That's all there is to it. Piece of cake. That part is. The academics were rigorous, but then I expected that too. But I wasn't upset about being away from home. It's like being on a military deployment.
Yeah.
You're away.
Yeah.
You get to come home, see your family at semester.
It's like staying on the weekends at Perkins. That's how I got used to being.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was like, I didn't give it a thought. So, being on the one hand, being away at school, it hardens you. It makes you a little tougher. You lose some identification with family. That's not necessarily a good thing. I think that in terms of socialization, the parties that Mr. Goss put together, I think were the best effort that Perkins could provide in introducing them to people from the outside. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Much as we joked about it, but I think that was a good thing. Because it teaches you everything about relationships, about, how to interact with other people, and teaches those folks who come to see us how to interact with us. Which isn't a bad thing, because maybe somebody learned something. And that's not bad.
Speaking of that, like when I've been at Frontal, you don't get a chance to do a lot of that. They keep you on the ward or in like a state prison hospital.
Yeah.
I was at Frontal for 10 1/3 years.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
Minimal security facility.
Yeah.
So, any questions or any other idea? So that's
Matt,
where I've been for the. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Marcy.
No, it's Joe.
Joe, go
Matt,
ahead.
Do you still have your tandem bike?
No, I got rid. I sold it. Well, I mean, the roads are way too rough to ride on.
Mm-hmm.
The traffic is unbelievable these days.
How long ago did you sell it?
Well, actually, I had two. I had a real inexpensive one that I sold to some friends of mine. I bought another one that I didn't use for a couple of years, and when I moved out of my condo into my house, I gave it away because it was pretty much falling apart. You know, it hadn't been maintained for a while, and so I got rid of it.
That makes sense.
I mean, I miss riding tandems, but I don't miss, you know, the way people drive these days. It's not worth it anymore. It's too scary. You know, road burned is nothing. Losing your life is a totally, you know, different deal. I mean, these guys will cut you off and not even think about it. And the roads are so bad. I mean, you hit a pothole that's deep enough, and you're gonna blow a tire. Then you gotta walk home.
Yeah, then you gotta walk home.
Yeah.
I should have fixed the tandem for you.
I mean, I've biked 20, 30 miles. It's nothing. You know, on a good 18-speed tandem, it's nothing. But you know, God forbid you lose a tire like halfway through. You got to walk those 10 miles back home. Unless somebody's kind enough to give you a ride, maybe. Don't count on that, though. I mean, it's bad enough to try to put a single bike into a car. Try doing that with a tandem. It ain't happening, even with the tire off. So, you know, unless they have bungee cords put on top. But even then, it's like, you know, now you're dealing with a $2,000 bike. Now a good bike is like $4,000 to $5,000. And you know, I hate to say it, but when you buy these kinds of things, you get what you pay for. If you buy it cheap, then you got problems. I mean, I had one. So I bought a Columbia for like $300, and I'll tell you, it was a 5-speed. You could not climb a moderately steep hill on that bike because the gearing was bad, and the frame was there was too much flex in the frame, so you couldn't get enough torque to power yourself up the hill, even if you had the right gears. So, yeah, no, that went away. Unfortunately, I miss it, but I don't miss the aggravation because, you know, you really have to be the traffic patterns have changed so much, and the nature of the driver has changed so much that it's pretty dangerous. I don't think even if I won the lottery and had the money to buy a tandem, I don't think I'd do it.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
That's all.
No. Thanks for asking.
I remember the cheap tandem.
Oh, I loved it. It was great. I mean, you'd be going down the hill 45, 50 miles an hour. It's like you're not even thinking about it. I mean, it's a hell of a rush, and it's a lot of fun. And you know, when you're in good physical condition, and you've got a really good bike under you, and then you're just clipping along. And when your cruising speeds on flats is like 20 miles an hour, that's pretty good. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that, you know, that I was doing in my 20s and 30s, and you know, up to about 40. And it was a lot of fun, but you know, there comes a time when you got to sort of, you know, as Clint Eastwood would say, a man's got to know his limitations. You know, there comes a time where you have to sort of like give it up. Plus, it's hard to find good, reliable captains with whom I felt comfortable riding with. You got to trust them. I mean, you know, if they're bad drivers in terms of cars, they're not going to be much better on a bike.
No.
Not worth it.
Lauren, we haven't heard from you. Is there anything that you want to add to this discussion? I guess Lauren's not there. Anybody else?
Matt, it's Marcy. I want you to know you got, when you were in school, my cousin Mark Siegelman went the same time you did, and he used to say, I don't know if you know this guy, but his name's Matt Chao. I go, yeah, I know him. He says, you should see this guy whip around the campus.
Uh-huh.
And I said to him, he probably could get around without the cane if he wanted to.
We all did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Almost.
Yeah,
well, I have an interesting story about that.
Yeah.
I actually, the first day I was at Brandeis, I stayed over, I was going down to dinner.
You mean when you took the header?
Yeah.
Oh,
What the hell of a header. I had stitches.
Oh.
And I wasn't using my cane. I went over the wall into this little pond in the middle of the quad, hit a rock, cut my head open, had about eight stitches or so in my forehead, upper part of my forehead. And after that, I always used my cane.
Oh, you learned.
Even though I knew exactly where I was,
yeah.
it wasn't worth making the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
So you went from no cane to a dog. Wow.
Yeah.
That. Hey, you do what you got to do. It's
you do what you got to do. But he used to say that he's. I wish I could do as good because he would always bump into stuff, and he's got 20/20 with his glasses, but he would bump into things, and he says, this guy doesn't.
Yes.
Hey,
your limitations.
when you're young and vigorous, you can do those things.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
I miss being young and vigorous.
Yeah.
So, any other questions or comments or?
Yeah, we got time for a couple more. If not, well. All right, well, Matt, I know you're a busy young man. You notice I said young? And I appreciate the time that you've taken from your busy day to come on and talk to us about what you do. We appreciate it very much.
Well, you're only as young as you feel.
Yep.
And I would say that those of you who would like to keep in touch with me, you can get my email through. Well, I'll give you my email. It's Matt Chao, MattChao @Verizon.net.
For about those of us who don't have like a origin number non-published.
It's not published.
Not published.
I don't have a computer, and I am.
Figure it this way: after having worked in a prison, I never give my number out.
Oh yeah.
I can understand that.
I can understand.
Yeah.
Well, you can trust us, though, right? We're not.
You know what? Loose lips sink ships.
Sink ships.
Oh yeah.
Well, I don't talk to prisoners.
Well, it doesn't mean that you never will, though, does it?
Nope.
You never know.
No, you don't. The guy that you're sitting to on the bus could be a convicted, could be an ex-felon. You would never.
Could be any, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of back in 1971, October 4th, I met Victor Hemphill, who I didn't know this. Somebody asked me, "Did you meet him in conference?" I said, "No, at the Providence bus terminal, above all places."
Oh, geez,
and I asked him, "How did you learn Braille?" And he wrote to me, gave me his address when he lived on Nantucket at the time. He said he learned it when he was in Vacaville for cashing bad checks.
Vacaville, California?
Yeah, I kid you not. When he was in the California prison system for cashing bad checks.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, well, it was good to catch up on some of the news as well as to be on the air, Bob.
Well, thanks again, Matt. We appreciate it. Maybe we'll have you back sometime soon. You never know.
No, you never know.
Matt, are you going to the fourth?
Yeah.
You going to the?
You coming to? We would love to
Mount
come
Vernon?
to Vernon's if you
You're going
could.
to come out Mount Vernon?
When's that going to be?
May 7th.
May 7th. On the water May 7th. I may be sailing.
Yeah, it'll be warmer weather then.
Well, it's
Nice and warm.
I mean, actually,
Hopefully.
I may be sailing on. I actually may be sailing on Wednesday. Because I got
Wednesday? It's not going to be that warm that day.
No, but
Not warm enough for sailing, I wouldn't think.
Well, it'll be 52 degrees. It's supposed to be
Cold.
out of the south at about I actually winds out of the west northwest about 8 knots. But I need to start my training schedule because.
Oh yeah.
You got to get started before you actually start racing because you need to be sharp and prepared. And so I'm always one who likes to prepare things well ahead of time because I don't like surprises of the negative variety. And those only come because you did not properly prepare. I mean, there's some you can't foresee, but there are others that you can take care of. And the ones you take care of, you deal with them early, before they become problems. You anticipate.
Yeah.
Very good.
Are you with committee?
Okay, well, it was nice having you, and thanks again, Matt. We appreciate it.
Good hearing from you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Good talking with you.
Well,
you know what? Hold on. Before you go, Bob, actually, I can give you mine. I just realized I can. I can give you my cell number. Ready to copy?
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
617-957-1827.
Yeah.
It's a landline one that is sacrosanct.
Yeah.
That's the one I never ever give out because, as a matter of fact, the other thing that I do is there's this program. Any of you guys who have computers, there's this actual service called Nomo Robo.
Oh, really?
Oh,
yeah.
Nomo, NOMOROBO.
So what do you?
.com.
So what do you do? Can you just go on the internet and tell them you don't want robocalls?
Exactly. And it's
I've been looking for something like that because
it screens a good number of them. It doesn't get them all.
No.
Like,
but if it gets 3/4 of them, that'd be wonderful.
It won't get the political. They won't get the political cause because by law they conveniently worked it that way. But it will. It will get rid of a lot of telemarketers.
Wish they'd get them too because
I know. The political calls are the ones that.
But I mean, it's not that I endorse it, but at least from my perspective, I've seen it work.
Okay.
NOMORobo.com.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for telling me about that.
Yeah.
Is there any way to do that?
Believe me.
You guys, I mean, if you want, I mean, it's obviously up to you guys, but check it out. Let me know how it works.
Yeah, all right.
It doesn't.
Okay, I bet you put your phone number and you tell them you don't want them and.
Yeah.
No, it's a little bit more complicated.
What?
Oh, more complicated than that?
Yeah, well, you have to get up on the internet and read everything, but it doesn't support cells.
No.
No, but I know it doesn't do that. But I mean, as long as it puts landline.
Yeah.
Oh, landline.
That's what I want.
It supports most of them. If you have Verizon, AT&T,
Comcast,
even Comcast, it probably supports those.
Yeah, RCN.
Yeah, I might.
I'll check it out.
Check it out.
Do you still do? You still do community boating?
No, I actually sail more in Charlestown now than I do at community boating.
Charlestown.
Oh.
But anyway, guys,
right.
it was great to catch up with you guys. Drop me a line, whatever.
All right, thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Take care.
Good to catch up with all of you.
Likewise.
Yeah.